Okay, I know a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy for making this video, but you know, people's lives are on the line right now, and I won't risk having any of their blood on my hands. So I know a lot of people have been following these eclipses, you know, the two big eclipses. This next one, it's going over Nineveh, you know, to at least two cities directly named Nineveh. So everyone's connecting it to Jonah. Well, in order to understand all of this, we're going to go over the first big city that in 2017 the eclipse passed over, which was Nashville. Now, Nashville is a special city because people for over 100 years, for 100 years at least, people have been having dreams about the destruction of Nashville. Okay, now we're going to see how 9/11 ties into this. Okay, yeah, it sounds crazy, right? 9/11, yeah, we're going to start there. All right. Now look. Okay, so look, I even show you. All right, so her last book called Volume 9, Book 9, Testimonies for Last Day People. The first chapter, the name of the first chapter, you can see it right here. The name of the first chapter is called The Last Crisis. Okay, The Last Crisis. And you can see, I don't know, let me see. Okay, so you can see right there, The Last Crisis. And you can see these numbers here. Now, these numbers come from the original book that was printed when she was alive. See, this page started on page 11. That's what that 11 means. It means it started on page 11. But this is also chapter 1. This is also chapter 1 of the 9th book. So from the start of this chapter, you have 9/11 from the original time. Okay, but let's get to the point. So just down this chapter, I've actually highlighted where her prophecy starts right down here, her 9/11 prophecy that many have come to know it had come true. Let me just read it for you. We have to understand this. This is what she says. Her visions, she describes her dreams. Many, not just her, many people are having dreams about Nashville right now, but we need to understand this first. She says, on one occasion, when in New York City, I was in the night season, called upon to behold buildings rising story after story toward heaven. These buildings were warranted to be fireproof. They were erected to glorify their owners and builders. Higher and still higher these buildings rose, and in them the most costly material was used. Those to whom these buildings belonged were not asking themselves, how can we best glorify God? The Lord was not in their thoughts. I thought, oh, those that are thus investing their means could see the house, could see their course as God sees it. If only they could see it as God sees it. Okay, they are piling up magnificent buildings, but how foolish in the sight of the ruler of the universe is their planning and devising. They're not studying with all powers of the heart and mind how they may glorify God. They have lost sight of this, the first duty of man. As these lofty buildings went up, the owners rejoiced with ambitious pride that they had money to use in gratifying self, and provoking the envy of their neighbors. Much of the money that they thus invested had been obtained through exaction, through grinding down the poor. They forgot that in heaven an account of every business transaction is kept, every unjust deal, every fraudulent act is there recorded. The time is coming when in their fraud and insolence, men will reach a point that the Lord will not permit them to pass, and they will learn that there is a limit to the forbearance of Jehovah. And then she continues with the dream. She says, the scene that next passed before me was an alarm of fire. The men looked at the lofty and supposedly fireproof buildings and said, they're perfectly safe. But these buildings were consumed as if made of pitch. And for those who don't know, pitch is a weak, easily burnable wood. So as if it was made of cheap wood. Okay? And black smoke, creates a lot of black smoke. The fire engines could do nothing to stay the course of destruction. The firemen were unable to operate the engines. Now note, this was written in 1904, before the Twin Towers had even went up. And she's referring to New York City specifically. And she's not speaking of the end times because and she's not speaking about the whole city burning up either, because she says that they tried to put it out, but the fire wouldn't go out. These supposedly, fireproof buildings, they can never be burned, yet they were all burned up. That's what everyone said about the Twin Towers, that they were built the best. Why did they burn down like that? Now, yes, supposedly fireproof. She said they did everything that they could, but it didn't go out. She referred to these buildings as the pride of man, the Twin Towers, and she wrote this before they were built. The Twin Towers were at once the tallest buildings in the world, right? They were the pride of America. And now I know what some of you might say is that, well, it was an inside job. Well, Ellen White never says it wasn't. This woman here speaking, she never said it wasn't an inside job. She actually emphasizes the point that they were so indestructible, yet they all went down and there was nothing that anybody could do about it. Now, the fact that she even calls them buildings, for one, 2 buildings, and we know actually 3 buildings went down that day. Tower 7 wasn't hit by any plane, just collapsed in the same way. But she says buildings in New York City, and she's talking about specific buildings, that they would be the pride stacked up the highest. You know, all that existed in her time was what, Empire State Building at the moment? I mean, you know, so just the fact that she called that, but then the fact that she called their destruction and how it was a surprise to everybody. And the fact that it starts on the 9th book, the last book that she wrote, Testimonies to Church. And the chapter starts, well, let's say, it starts as the last crisis. Okay, it starts as the last crisis. And so, you know, 9/11, boom, boom, bang, because what else could she be talking about? Because other people say, oh, well, maybe she's just talking about the end times or something. She can't be. She's talking about specific buildings in New York. The entire city didn't burn up. It was what do you guys think that there'll be another Twin Towers built before the end of time? No, this was fulfilled. This was in the last chapter right here called The Last Day Crisis. It started on 9/11. Now this is where we're getting to the point. The exact way that this woman speaks about this that happened later on in this book, this last book here, this last chapter. She goes on to speak about something else. And you know what? You guys can look. I have the links below. You can look into it all yourself. She goes in. She talks about Nashville, how she was in Nashville. And she speaks about this repeatedly. She first spoke about it in 1904, exactly 100 years from now. And she said she saw a great ball of fire, you know, landing on this building and then fireballs shooting out. Right. And she also says that before this happened, though, that in the city that they were erecting this building. They were erecting a building that they were molding pillar after pillar. They were molding pillar after pillar to build this building. And then she says that this is where it lands and fireball, you know, cities destroyed by fire. And so let me just tell you, she was dead before this happened. But I think everyone knows about the thing in Nashville. It's the big temple to Athena. You know, it's an exact replica. They did an exact replica size. And they actually casted the pillars. There's no other place in the United States where this even happened, where they're casting pillars. They casted pillars to make this thing. It's an exact replica of this god, this Babylonian in origin god. And inside they have a huge idol. And this is in Nashville, Tennessee. And she says that this is what would happen before this fire came. Okay? So now that we've established the credibility of her dreams, okay, but she's not the only one having these dreams about the destruction of Nashville. Now we know that in 2017 it went directly over Nashville. Okay, and then in April 8th, when it's about to happen, it'll be passing over, making that X. The X is somewhere in the south. If you look at actually where the longest part of the eclipse was, it's in this place that they call Little Egypt. So much symbology, but let me get to the main points. Now there was a man before 2017 who had known about her prophecies coming true about 9/11. He was actually worried about the 2017 eclipse. And you know what he did? He went to Nashville and warned everyone before the 2017 eclipse. He warned them about this destruction. And while he was doing it, he ran into all types of people who had the same dreams. Okay? Even whenever he left Nashville and went out to the west, someone asked, oh, what were you doing out there? And he answered, and he said, oh, I'm just making this video about, people having dreams about the destruction of Nashville. And the woman was in awe. She said, oh my goodness. She said, we moved there just a couple years ago because our son kept having these dreams. And he was so adamant, he got us to move out of there a couple years ago. Okay, so this guy, this man, he read this, and then he saw all of those people having dreams, and so he warned the city. You can watch. I have the link in the description. He did this in 2017, leading up to the eclipse. It's called Nineveh to Nashville. This man called it Nineveh to Nashville because he saw the Nineveh parallels. Okay, but he did this before even the 2024, where everyone's getting excited because it's passing over two cities named Nineveh. Okay, so this guy warned. So now let's make some more Nineveh parallels. So this great eclipse that's happened before this one that's about to happen, they're about 7 years apart, right? So Nineveh, Nashville, they've actually already been warned. Okay, they've already been warned. And all of them that ran into him, this guy was even on like a TV station, all of them that ran into him, heard him, all of them that see the hype that's happening with this current eclipse, oh, trust me, they're getting out of there. They're getting out of there. Now, I'm not saying for sure Nashville will be destroyed on April 8th. Okay? I'm not saying that for sure. But it's a possibility. Okay? And it will be one day. Okay? But there's too many things lining up. Like, let's talk about the other things lining up. Okay, let's talk about in the Bible. In the Bible, Jesus literally says, in the end times, they'll be giving the people, they will be given no other sign but the sign of Jonah. Okay, I'll put that in the quote below. It says that in the Bible. They'll be given no other sign but the sign of Jonah. Read Genesis 2. It talks about the stars and everything, the firmament and the heavens. They were also given to us for signs. You want to keep talking about signs? It was prophesied, right? Everyone knows it was prophesied that Greece would defeat Persia. Well, on that day that Greece defeated Persia, an eclipse happened. This is very well documented. The Greeks interpreted it as they're going to win. They're going to win the war. The Persians interpreted it as they're going to lose it. And they did lose. So you see, there is a sign in the sky when the prophecy that was foretold by God's prophets took place. Okay? All right? And then also going on with this Jonah thing. There's a lot of people because the astrologers, you can calculate it to right around the time of Jonah, there was an eclipse that would have went right over Nineveh. So a lot of people speculate that even a lot of people, they've been doing it, is that, part of what convinced Nineveh to listen to Jonah was the fact that when he was preaching, an eclipse did happen. And we all know, though, that eventually it held off their destruction, but eventually Nineveh was destroyed by fire. Okay, it was destroyed by fire eventually. But now let me get to the crazy parts. All right, let me get to the crazy parts. The last time that we had an X like this with the eclipse, the same exact way over America, that was in the early 1800s. Okay, early 1800s, right at the start of the 1800s, 1811, 18 whatever. Okay, and you can look. That's when we had the biggest earthquake. We're on a fault line here. We're on a fault line in the Mississippi, in the South Mississippi River. You guys have heard of when the Mississippi River went the other way, went the other direction. There's the biggest earthquakes like ever recorded here, okay? And it happened the last time this happened. Just something to keep in mind. A lot of war broke out after that too. But let's get to some other points here. You look at that X. You look at that X at the two, 2017, 2024. God works in sevens, 3.5, 3.5, whatever. If you look at the line that it makes, look up, because I've confirmed this myself, look up the look up the paleo letter for it, of what it makes, the paleo sign. It means mark. It means seal. That's what it means. It really does. Look up the paleo Hebrew. That paleo Hebrew letter means sign. It means mark. It means seal. But now here's another thing. I'm sure some of you are aware of this already too, is in 2023, we also had a partial eclipse. I mean, it was a full eclipse for some, but partial because it only went over partial part of the United States, not all over it, right? That happened in 2023. Well, if you look at that, it connects with that X, okay? And look up the paleo, because I did this in books before it was ever, before this year, just to confirm. Look up the paleo letter, Aleph, I believe it is, Aleph. Look up that paleo letter. And it means, look up the meanings, it's everything that relates to Jesus Christ. Okay? So the X is a Paleo Hebrew, even in the way that it's oriented. It's the Paleo Hebrew. It means a sign or a mark. And you add the 2023 one to it, its meanings associated with Christ. But not only that, so on this exact day, guess what else is going to be above us? The constellation, the whale constellation. Constellation only associated with the whale, the fish, going to be directly above us. Another Another Jonah shout out, right? But not only that, it gets really weird because, okay, well, the Devil's Comet, you know, this happens like every 71 years or something. The Devil's Comet is also going to be flying directly over us that day. And they call it the Devil's Comet because when you look at it, it looks like it's got two tails at the end, like the devil or something. But I watched a video of it, and to me, it actually looks like, it almost looks like wings flapping. I mean, this is the real videos of it, but get this too. The scientists say that this comet is volcanic, okay? It has heat inside. It can things, okay? That's not a Christian saying it. Look it up. Look up everything that I'm saying, okay? The scientists say that that's what this comet does. It, you know, that's what it does. It shoots out, it's volcanic. It can do that stuff, okay? And so this just happens to be flying right over us in America too on the same day. Okay, and it's called the Devil's Comet. It gets weirder though. Okay, NASA, which I'm sure a lot of you already know about this too, NASA's shooting 3 rockets into the sky on that day, and the name of their operation, I forgot what it is right now, you can look it up. The name of their operation is the god that is the nemesis of Ra. Ra is the sun god, okay? The sun has always represented Lucifer to the Satanists, okay? The sun god goes all the way back to Babylon. So Ra is the sun god. You see it in many cultures because they all came from Babylon, okay? So Ra is the sun god. So Ra represents Satan. They named their force, their operation, NASA did. They named it the enemy of Ra. And it's called the serpent god. It's the serpent god. You guys can look this up. But that's very weird. Why are they shooting 3 rockets up into there? It's very weird. There's a lot of very weird stuff. Also, just very weird how the National Guard's being called out. FEMA's being called out. There's just a lot of weird things happening. Look at the Nashville, the Tennessee Titans. You look at the logo. It's a comet. It's a comet. It's a comet, just like the comet, the Devil's Comet that's about to be passing over. Okay, and here's the thing about Nashville is it has the biggest meteor crater in the United States. There's at least 2, I think 2 or 3 of them. One of them is like over 3.5 miles long. Okay, and this is, you won't see more craters anywhere, actually, more meteor craters anywhere in the United States, except for right around Nashville, Tennessee. So that's another interesting thing to think about. You know, and the 3 stars that are on that comet logo, with the, you know, they're said to represent geological structures in Tennessee or around Nashville. Whatever. Some speculate that, you know, they relate to the meteor craters, but it's really weird that they chose a comet too. Scientists know that this is the place where the most meteors have hit place, so I just had to add that in there too. And we got the Devil's Comet coming over here. We got people dreaming dreams, and people who've dreamt dreams that have come true. And not enough people are focusing on Nashville. Okay, you see the focus on Nashville. If you guys know anyone who's in Nashville, okay, if you know of anybody, please share this. You can share the links. I'll share the link of the guy. I'll share the links of all the proof of everything that I'm talking about. But you know, I had to make this video. Please warn Nashville. Look into these things yourself. Everything's linked below. You know, I had to do this because if this does happen, I won't have any blood on my hands. But I think everyone knows that biblical things are happening right now. A lot of people out there, okay, no matter what denomination of Christian you are, you know, okay, you can see all the things connected, right, with this April 8th, 2024 thing. But they're missing Nashville. Okay, you're missing Nashville. It says in the Bible, God does not do a thing that he does not first reveal to his prophets. It says that in the Bible too. I'll put a link of that. Okay? He doesn't do a thing unless it's revealed to his prophets first. All right? So just think about this. Please check this out. Please, lives may depend on it. Please do it. And also for thinking about the 9/11 thing. Okay, in 9/11, 2001, what came after that? I mean, the chapter begins, you know, the time of the end, right? It's the name of it, the time of the end. And it starts out with this 9/11 prophecy. Well, what happened after 9/11? After 9/11, you had the Patriot Act. What did the Patriot Act do? The Patriot Act stripped away all of our rights forever, okay? We haven't had rights since then. I don't know if you guys know this, but anyone who the Fed deems to be a domestic terrorist, deems to be a domestic threat, an insurrectionist. You know, a lot of the titles that they were calling Christ before they crucified him, you know, all the things they're trying to get him for. Okay, if you're labeled that by the Fed, you can be held indefinitely without a trial. They don't have to prove it. They just have to label you it. Under our law, since then, since this all kicked off in 9/11, under the Patriot Act, anybody can be held by the Fed indefinitely. They don't have to prove it, and you can even be killed. Okay? That's the law. Oh, and they have the right to spy on all of us now. See, that's when it all started. They started spying on everyone in America. They started. Do you see what's coming? The persecution is coming. That's what it initiated. That's what it is. Anyone who is labeled anything like that. And if you look, go to the federal government. The federal government even calls what they've labeled who they call might be dangerous domestic terrorists. You want to know who they are? They're making a list of people who buy Bibles. Don't believe me? Go look it up. They're making a list of people who buy Bibles. People who believe in the last days. Okay, people who believe in end times. The biblical end times, the biblical Christ's second coming. People who make their own gardens, you know, people who store up some food. These are all people who are on their list of possible domestic dangers. And just know that if the government labels you any of those things, they can legally, you have no rights. You've had no American in this country has had any rights under the law legally since the Patriot Act. So, yeah, just wanted to throw that in there. It kicks off, you know, this book of this woman dreaming dreams. It kicks off, and the first prophecy she throws in there is 9/11, last day crisis. I believe everything has started and has been punting and kicking off since 9/11. It's just getting faster and faster. And who is the target? The target is the people of God. It's to choose ye this day who you will serve. The people of God will be persecuted. The mark of the beast is coming. And it is paramount that everyone learns the mark of the beast. That's the only other thing that I wanted to add. Anyways, other than that, God bless, take care. Please get ready. Okay? Please get ready. The wicked servant, it says in the Bible, the wicked servant says in his heart that the Lord delayeth his coming. And then he begins to smite his fellow servants. Okay? Okay, so don't listen to the soothsayers, the peace, safety. Don't do that. All right. God bless.